probably the king of, they called them variety shows back in the 50s, was Ed Sullivan. And this guy, pretty much everybody knows who he is, except for maybe the 20-year-olds anymore. I mean, this guy, reruns of this show, his shows were running well into the 90s.
But that ran during the day, though. I don't think that was a night show.
It was evening.
Evening.
It was like 7 o'clock.
Yeah. It was after.
Remember the Donnie and Marie show and all of that stuff? He ran in that time slot.
The news hour was what, 5 to 6?
5 to 6.
And then 6 to 7.
6 to 7 was game shows.
Yeah.
And then 7 to 8 was variety TV.
Yeah.
Hee Haw and the Ed Sullivan Show and so on and so forth. But Ed Sullivan, to the point, pretty much paved the way for the modern talk show host, because he would have conversation with everybody he brought on. And he's most famous for bringing Elvis on and letting Elvis play and making the cameras focus above Elvis's waist so nobody could see his obscene dance moves. And at the time, they were considered obscene. It was just how it was.
Back then, it was, instead of twerking, it was florking.
I suppose.
He was flailing his spork around.
Yeah.
And, women loved it.
I'm sure that's true, but Ed Sullivan, not so much.
Not having it.
He had the Beatles on. He had Rudolph Nureyev, the ballet dancer, on. Bob Hope was on everybody's talk show, though.
Yeah, Bob Hope.
He was a regular. He was also a freaking hero with the troops.
Oh, yeah. Bob Hope.
That guy was amazing.
I mean, I think, like, we did the tribute for Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And he was a huge USO guy. And a lot of times he would go entertain the troops and they wouldn't even pay him. They would just pay per diem.
Yeah. He would just go. He had enough money. He would just, I'm going.
And same thing with Bob Hope.
Yeah.
And, Bob Hope, when he passed away, I mean, it was a pretty significant funeral and everything. When Robin Williams passed away, it was literally, they hid in shame. It was very small kind of.
Really? I did not know that.
It was very small ceremony. And I think that goodbye for Robin Williams was literally robbed from the entire country. That's how much he was loved.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was, first of all, he was a AAA actor, in my opinion. I would say he was a AAA comedian. And he mixed the two together. And we are not going to see anyone like him in our lifetimes.
He sold us an alien who came in a flying space egg and made us like it.
Yes. And we laughed our balls off.
Yeah. And said stupid shit like Nanu, Nanu.
Yeah. And he went up against Fonzie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I forgot about that episode. That was his first appearance.
Yep.
That Mork from Ork's first appearance was against Fonzie in an episode of Happy Days.
Yep.
I completely forgotten about that. I need to rewatch that episode.
Yeah, but the thing is if you like the Ed Sullivan variety show, you got to see a little bit of what was going on in the world. Of course, you had people who were like, no, we can't show people this, we can't show people that.
This is the 1950s. This was the way it was at the time.
But like, look how the world is now.
Yes, we're getting to that part. That's the whole point of this.
We could actually use a little more of that morality in current year.
Yeah, it's just and you could say whatever you want about it, but the fact is, why do you have to always saturate people's eyeballs with that crap?
Yeah.
Why do you always have to saturate people's eyeballs with audaciousness and filth and gore and shocking stuff and so on and so forth?
Well, see, back in the day, they did it to see what they could get away with. Now that they're getting away with it, they want to one-up each other to the point where it is, in my opinion, it is over the top.
Yeah. It started in the early 80s with movies like Porky's and Animal House.
I loved Animal House.
It was a great movie.
I just watched it the other night.
It was a great movie.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
All of that was testing the boundaries to see what they could get away with, and they got away with it.
Yep.
And so they kept making more and raunchier and stuff like Johnny Carson.
And now we're grooming in schools.
Mm-hmm. Did we just let them get married? They just want to be. I got to shut up because we're going to get dinged. Do not go down the multicolored rabbit hole.
Yeah, but it's totally true. It is.
do not taste the rainbow. Although Sullivan was often awkward and self-conscious on camera, he was a hit with the audiences, and his program had a broad appeal. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called charisma.
Yes.
Ed Sullivan had charisma, as did Bob Hope, as did Robin Williams, Johnny Carson.
And character.
And that's what drove those shows. Somebody in the chat said Belushi was a god. He was. The guy was also one of those people who had tremendous character. The other one is the guy who played Latka on Taxi.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was a genius.
Oh.
That whole character, he just invented it off the top of his head. And it just...
They went with it.
Let's do that.
Well, here's the thing. If you're doing a comedy show, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't really write into the script how the characters react to certain situations. You can try, but if you force that, it looks like
it looks forced,
and it's just right collar, robotic. Nobody wants to see that.
Insert joke here. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
No,
they like the guy who you want me to deliver it like this. That doesn't sound right. And then off the cuff, he's just like, no, and everyone laughs.
Belushi was great at that.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name. Jimmy, do you remember the guy's name who played Latka on Taxi?
I don't remember.
What's that dude's name? Drag that up for me real fast.
Oh, Danny DeVito.
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Didn't they do a whole movie on him?
I believe they did.
Man on the Moon.
He had quite a story.
Yes.
Behind him. But Taxi was one of the few sitcoms that I could watch. I don't really like sitcoms because they're formulaic and they tell you when to laugh using laugh tracks.
Yeah.
You could turn the laugh track off on Taxi.
It's still funny.
And the shit's still funny.
See, I like MASH.
MASH as well.
MASH really did.
MASH was good. And
like the interactions with
Barney Miller.
With Radar O'Reilly.
Yes.
Because I've actually met individuals who could do shit like he did in the army.
Oh yeah. You get a good supply corporal, and it's never like the supply sergeant. It's always this little corporal over in the corner, and you need like 15 of these. Oh yeah, I get that.
Oh no, we'd have an operation come in. I'd call the supply sergeant. Hey, I already got it. I didn't even know I was going to tell you. Yeah, I know what's going on. Yeah. Well, what about you? Got it. What about it's already done. I'm like, holy shit. Okay.
This is a true story that I'm kind of proud of. My dad was in the Korean War, 19th Infantry. And when they got there, they're standing out in the rain, he said, and the supply sergeant says, "Can anybody here type?" My dad looked around, nobody raised his hand, and my dad went, "Supply sergeant, go to my tent. So I need you to type these things out. I can't type." "You have 3 days to learn to type." My dad learned to type with like 3 or 4 fingers. So he became the supply corporal, but he would tell me stories about how they would trade with other units.
You got a horse trade.
He would get whiskey from the officer's supply tent somehow to trade for food for the battalion and sheets. He could trade sheets for cigarettes.
Yeah. As a first sergeant and former, scrounger when the 9th ID, when I was in Iraq, I did all of that shit because you have to horse trade.
Yes,
and
never ever piss off the supply sergeant.
We had a vehicle.
Do not do it.
We had a vehicle get hit by a roadside bomb.
Okay,
right near the front of our fob, which was Abu Ghraib.
Okay.
They drag it into the fob, and it wasn't tore up too bad.
Right.
Nobody was killed. Nobody was really wounded. They were just kind of shaken up. And then it sat there for like a month. Meanwhile, I have all these other vehicles that are like, we're short on equipment. We're short on parts. We're driving trucks that need to be Circle X'd because they're that bad.
This is normal for the Army, by the way.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of, mechanics that actually are infantry guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we need brakes. We need this. And finally, they're like, hey, I think we're going to scavenge all the parts off of that destroyed vehicle. And I'm like, I hear nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
As long as it remains in the Army system, it is not theft.
And you could tell my unit was from Detroit because the next day,
Up on blocks.
Up on blocks. Picked clean. Picked clean.
That is the signature Detroit move.
So 2 weeks later, there's this first lieutenant. I get called up there and say, First Sergeant, I roll my vehicle in the fob and look at it. It's a shell.
It got picked clean.
So I had Carmel, who was a supply sergeant from back in the day. Yeah. He had already filled out all the combat loss paperwork.
Oh, we had this one ready to go.
And we're just like, sir, if you just sign here. All right. What's that? Goes, if you'll see, there's 6 witness statements, and this is actually the combat loss saying that the vehicle was destroyed in combat.
Yeah.
If you could just sign, and everything will go away. And it did. It did. It did. Because technically, it was destroyed. It was, damaged heavily.
It was heavily damaged, and the parts went on to serve a greater purpose.
Yeah, I literally had.
That's fantastic.
I had 3 heavy up armors that all needed brakes.
Yeah,
and we, one needed a set of front brakes, one needed a set of back brakes.
Sure,
we traded some other parts for some brake pads.
Yeah,
I traded whole pallets of that alcohol-free Nama beer for stuff. We had foot lockers of computers that just I came across, and I would trade those for all kinds.
Foot lockers of computers.
These things happen. Don't ask me.
That's fine.
All right. But in a combat zone, that's the way shit works.
Yes. Can vouch.
Yeah. I should do a show on that. Horse
trading. This all stemmed from talking about MASH.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when the 4077th was officially decommissioned in Korea, that happened at Pyeongtaek, and I was there.
Mm.
And all of the actors who were still alive came over. I think Loretta Swit was there. Alan Alda was there.
Oh.
And a bunch of the other ones from the original movie, too.
Yeah.
Over. That was actually kind of cool. There was a big, huge ceremony for this fictional TV comedy unit that.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
The numbered unit did exist at one time. There was a 4077th Military Test Service Hospital.
Yeah, but the thing is we just got done doing 2 decades worth of war.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the funny shows about it?
Yes.
Because, come on.
Where's our shows?
Yeah. They're not there because they're not allowed to be put on the air.
They did a couple of hero movies.
Yeah, they're not funded.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, look at all the material we could have. We could have, like, another MASH. We could have, similar shows that took place in Afghanistan and Iraq and all the surrounding theaters, because there's more than just those 2.
Yeah.
And, it actually would have been a pretty good deal.
I was about 10 years ago, I was kicking around an idea for a sitcom called Sorryville about soldiers forming a town in Montana where everybody agreed to live under UCMJ because all the soldiers didn't want to go back to the stupid civilian world.
Yeah.
And a civilian doctor comes in and he's got to find his way through the maze of UCMJ and military
and broken dudes
and wondering why there's some guy in a bathrobe saluting the flag at 5:00 in the morning. It's some World War II veteran who's like completely looped out. And
listen, man, war takes it. Look, the only reason I'm still standing here is because I had a former commander take the bullet that was meant for me.
Yeah.
At number 2, I made the conscious decision to rewrite the software in my Think and Meet because my brain had been damaged and I was encountering all kinds of frustration and pain because I was trying to use this damaged brain the way it used to be.
Yeah.
So I had to rewrite the software, which is in my book, The Warrior's Way, Soldier Soul, so I could continue to move forward and do positive shit.
Yeah. I woke up with a picture of my daughter in my hand on the floor after quite a few blackout benders. And that was like the moment where I went, okay, that's enough of this stupid.
Yeah. You got fate kicked in the face.
And I had a couple more hardcore down moments, but that was the one where I was, and that's like my anchor point, where if I have those moments again, I'm like, you've been here before, remember?
Yeah. Like the best story that has been sent in thus far that, for all the people on the board, the 550 that have been saved, was the guy who sent in his story about he literally was on his couch and he was at bullshit saturation. He had a bottle of whiskey and a pistol. And he's like, when this bottle is empty and finished, so am I. And then Redonkulus popped up on his TV. He started watching the show. Of course, he ran through the bottle. And by the time it was empty, he's like, I'm going to go to bed.
There you go.
He didn't shoot himself.
There you go.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulus.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.